Good morning. I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for streaming with us. Tropical storm Ida is heading north this morning after slamming into the Louisiana coast yesterday as a Category 4 hurricane, exactly 16 years after Hurricane Katrina. As daylight breaks, we are starting to get a sense of the damage. The storm made landfall with winds up to 150 miles per hour, knocking down trees and leaving more than 1 million customers without power across the Gulf Coast. The entire city of New Orleans is in the dark. The local power company says it will take days to determine the extent of the damage to its power grid. And winds reached up to 60 miles per hour in Walker, Louisiana, when the storm passed directly overhead overnight. Matt Gutman is there with the latest.
This morning, Hurricane Ida leaving behind a trail of destruction in Louisiana as the storm barrels up north from the Gulf Coast. A camera in Port Fourchon, Louisiana, capturing the wind rip beneath this dock. In Baton Rouge, transformers exploding from a distance.
Oh, something's blew up.
Trees collapsing, telephone poles leaning over roadways. Ida making landfall at noon Sunday.
We're just east of Baton Rouge. The rain and the wind have been fierce. First responders are here. That tractor trailer flipped over, taking this curve. It gives you a sense of the wind and the rain and their power here.
Exactly 16 years to the day after Hurricane Katrina made landfall, Ida already taking one life. With relentless wind gusts up to 150 miles per hour, the storm wreaking havoc, leaving more than 1 million customers without power in Louisiana and Mississippi. The eye of the monster storm cutting a swath over central Louisiana. In Houma, Louisiana, this man emerging from his home after the wind ripped off part of his roof. It landed on a neighbor's house. And in Grand Isle, as many as 40 people refusing to follow mandatory evacuation orders.
We've got devastated areas, roofs missing, whole camps torn down. We're out of fresh water.
Hey, Dan, I want to give you a sense of where we are. Walker, Louisiana. The storm came charging through here about, 8 hours ago. Anything that was high up came toppling down. This is a multi-ton steel billboard that you're supposed to be able to see all the way from the interstate, which is, 500 yards away. This thing came toppling down, and this is the first spot that we found driving out from our hotel to assess damage, and part of the reason for that is this thing, a steel spike embedded in our tire, a few hundred yards up the road. It basically stopped us. The tire went flat in about 60 seconds. It was pretty catastrophic, and that gives you a sense of how treacherous it is going to be and has been for first responders and rescuers. They have not been able to go out and assess the damage in any meaningful way because so many roads remain impassable. So we don't know how catastrophic the damage is, though we know it is, and we don't know how many casualties there are aside from a fatality actually very near to where we are right now, but that is likely going to change. Obviously, power is another major issue. The electrical grid here suffered catastrophic damage, and we were at a hotel, powering out at 6 p.m. 12 hours later is dawn, so people had to ride out this terrifying storm in the complete darkness. Late August, September, traditionally incredibly hot and humid and nasty in Louisiana. You need power to run gas stations. You need power to do your phone. So it's going to be really difficult in the coming days for folks around here. Obviously, again, the biggest concern is getting people out who are still stranded. That water is so high. Flash flood emergencies, that is a critical situation in so many parts of the state. Lots of standing water, not many places to drain since this is low-lying and flat pretty much across southern Louisiana. And that's why rescuers have been saying to people, please get out, and why we saw 14-hour-long traffic jams, and why they've been telling people that if they did hunker down in their homes and tried to go to their attics to avoid the high water, to bring axes with them to be able to hack their way out. There is still so much trauma from Hurricane Katrina, and it's 1,800 deaths. So many people back then trapped in their attics and unable to get out. So it's going to be a pretty hectic few hours ahead. I do know that search and rescue teams are doing everything they can to mobilize all the resources they can to get out and try to help people as quickly as they can. Diane?
Our thanks to Matt Gutman for that report from Walker, Louisiana. Thanks, Matt. And the system has now weakened to a tropical storm, but there is still a danger of flash flooding as Ida moves inland. Chief Meteorologist Ginger Zee joins me now from New Orleans with the latest. Ginger, good morning. Glad to see you safe and sound. What are you seeing there? Based on this picture, looks like a lot of destruction behind you.
Yes, Diane, parts of New Orleans, as you can see behind me, this is a building collapsed. Parts of New Orleans shredded. I mean, there are trees in the streets. You can see from our drone here the expanse of this building particularly, which has a fascinating and chilling history. It was an historic landmark, the Karnofsky Music Store. The Karnofskys had a tailor. That tailor's name? Louis Armstrong. They employed him, and through that money and money they lent him, he bought his first clarinet. They also allowed him and his buddies to jam here. So the heart of jazz has collapsed. It made it through Katrina, and here we are in front of this building, which is hard enough, but obviously the damage is way worse to our south and west, and that's where those flash flood emergencies that Matt was talking about are ongoing. So you can see on the radar here, the circulation is over southwestern Mississippi, but the bulk of the rain is to the east, and so those flash flood warnings, which means don't go in your car, do not go outside. It is not safe. Go all the way from here just west of Lake Pontchartrain over through Biloxi, where they are still seeing storm surge up through Alabama because that pull of the ocean is ongoing until we get it up into the mid-Atlantic. But look at this. It is going to go up there. The timing is the midweek in the Ohio River Valley. Tennessee, so hard hit, going to get it again. Delaware, Virginia, Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York will eventually see impacts from Ida. The timing of that goes like this. So if you're in just west of Nashville, where they had all of that big problem with flash flooding a few weeks ago, you're getting it Tuesday, late morning. Then move it on. Along that cold front, it's going to squeeze rain out from Pittsburgh over to, say, Scranton, northern New Jersey, parts of Poughkeepsie, over into New England. So we're not going to be done with Ida anytime soon. And unfortunately, we'll find out so much more about what's happened here in the next 24 hours.
And Ginger, why is this storm so historic?
There are going to be many reasons, Diane, but let's start with it was tied for the strongest by wind speed hurricane to ever hit the state of Louisiana, 150-mile-per-hour winds. Look at this, though. 3 major hurricanes, meaning Cat 3 or above, Zeta, Ida, and Laura, within a year. That's an unbelievable number, right? And torture for this state. You also had yesterday making history because of this. It took so long for this thing to die out, extremely stubborn. Part of that was because of the land and when it made landfall, and I use quotes when I say landfall because the land here is so marshy, so low-lying, and so warm, it sustained its Category 3 or 4 status for more than 8 hours. You don't see that. You don't see that little wobble happening so quickly and staying that strong. A lot of times you'll see rainfall from something that dies out quickly as far as the wind speeds go. We had 80 to 100-mile-per-hour gusts around here for 6 hours last night. It was battering us. Now, on top of all of this, the question and the connection is going to be partly to climate change. The water temperatures right before it made landfall are 3 to 4 degrees above average, that average that we keep seeing pump up as the sea surface temperatures warm. Climate scientists have been warning about warming for a long time, but related to intensification in the last couple of years. Right now, Ida lands in the top 5 hurricanes to make rapid intensification before making landfall in recorded history. So that is enough history, and we'll find out more today.
Incredible. Ginger Zee, thanks for that. Stay safe. And Louisiana State Representative Candace Newell joins me now on the phone with more on this. Representative, thanks for being here. What are you seeing there in New Orleans?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Right now, we have not had any reports because the state police have, just started to go out during daybreak to find out what kind of damage we have to our roads. And Entergy crews has just started going out as well during daybreak. So we don't have an exact report on the types of damages that have occurred in the district or in the city. But I have spoken seen my area, and I've spoken to people across the district, and it is not as bad as this storm could have caused. The conditions aren't as bad as what this storm could have caused. With no mass flooding, there are some people who lost some shingles from their roofs. Their fences are down. And outside of not having electricity for the past 12 hours now, the damage is something that we can work with. Something we can work with, and I'm grateful that so many citizens have left. They left when they were asked to leave. So I'm just grateful for that.
What's your biggest concern right now?
The time that the city will be out of power, the time that they're going to be out, because some of the hospitals, their backup generators kicked in. Some don't have the backup generators. People who are at home, who might be sick, have little ones, have older family members that need that electricity. And as Ginger was just stating, this is the hottest time of the year, and especially in New Orleans, southern Louisiana. It's really humid. The climate is really warm. And so I'm really concerned about that after the storm passes and people are still without electricity. And it's just the temperatures inside and outside of the home can be very dangerous. So that's my long-term concern.
So what should people do if they're there and they need help?
If they're there and need help, try to get on your social media and put out where you're located, what kind of help you need. If you can get through to 911, call 211 to see if there's any when the shelters will be open if you need to leave out. But if it's nothing life-threatening, I'm asking everyone to just please stay at home. Do not try to go and assess the damages yourself. That's what the professionals are here for. Stay at home. If you go out on the road, then it's likely that they'll have to rescue you when they're already on a mission to rescue someone else. So I'm just asking everyone to just stay home, try to stay safe. If you can, reach out to someone and need help. Go through social media. Use the apps. Zello has been working well. My family and I are on Zello. It works outside of the phone lines. But watch out for your neighbors. Help your friends and families. It's a time to be community. Time to really be community.
It sure is. And that is the one bright spot in tragedies like this, is how we always see people come together to make the best and to recover as quickly as possible. Louisiana State Representative Candace Newell, we so appreciate your time today. Good luck to you and your people. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And the storm is moving north, but heavy winds are still pounding the city of New Orleans. TJ Parker from our Houston station is there with the latest. TJ, how bad is the damage and what are you seeing right now?
Hey, good morning, Diane. Yeah, right now you can see it is actually sunny now in New Orleans. What a difference just a few hours make. We've been up very early this morning, and it was a lot different, let me tell you, when we got up around midnight. But you can see people out and about. They are also taking a look at the damage that Ida left behind here in New Orleans. We are about 40, 50 miles away from Grand Isle, Port Fourchon area, where Ida made landfall yesterday afternoon. But you can see this large tree. This is Poitras Street. If you're familiar with New Orleans, we're just off a few blocks off of Canal Street here, and this is kind of the case, the scenario all over town here, where you can see the trees, and there's also some bushes in the gutters and along the streets here as well. And my photographer friend, if you could come over here and look at this. We just talked to a security guard in this building here. We just showed up to this scene, and they were looking at this crack, if you could see it, on the side of this building here, this wall here, and he believes, now this isn't confirmed, but he believes that this is because of last night's storm. He says he was working last night. A security guard was working last night when he felt the building shake. Now, this is a pretty big building here in downtown New Orleans, so you can imagine just how strong the winds must have been for this building to shake and possibly cause a crack like this. So, again, we know people are going to be out this morning assessing the damage here in New Orleans and all over southeast Louisiana. We have seen police cars go up and down downtown New Orleans here checking out the damage, as well as people who live here. Quite the sight here this morning, just a few hours after Ida made their way through. Diane.
And how are residents dealing there without power?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I didn't bring that up. Power is still out. We have seen, the lights here obviously out. People are taking it very easy going through these intersections. And my only word of advice, and this is probably, a good piece of advice here. If you don't have to be out, don't, because again, these lights are out here in downtown New Orleans, but they are making the most of it here as the power is out. I don't know if you could hear it, but generators are going off across the city as well and have been since very early this morning. It is now the tune of New Orleans and drowning out the eerie silence here in this hugely bustling city.
All right, TJ Parker for us in New Orleans. TJ, thank you. And as Ida moves north, there are growing concerns over medical facilities overwhelmed with COVID-19 patients and their capacity to now also help people injured in the storm. ABC's Trevor Ault is in Lafayette, Louisiana, with the latest on that part of the story. Good morning, Trevor.
Good morning, Diane. This is really a crisis on top of a crisis. There are thousands of healthcare workers here in Louisiana who have been locked down inside their hospitals because even in a hurricane, they don't get a break from this pandemic. And we've heard specifically from some of these healthcare workers detailing their conditions in their hospitals, where they're seeing elevators rattling from the wind or the lights flickering on and off as city power in New Orleans shut down. And now they rely on their generator power as well. The Doctor-in-Chief at Children's Hospital New Orleans said this storm is the last thing in the world that they needed to happen because Louisiana has been in the midst of a fourth wave of COVID-19. They have the second highest number of COVID cases per capita, and across the country we're seeing the highest number of pediatric admissions with COVID-19 that we have seen at any point in this pandemic. Now, here in Lafayette, University Hospital is one of the few hospitals that has the spare capacity to set up extra beds so they can accept any patient transfers or evacuees from hospitals in areas that are being hit harder by Ida that are only relying on their emergency generators to stay up and running right now. And overnight, we actually learned of one hospital in the town of Thibodaux, which is west of New Orleans, that briefly lost power from one of their generators. The power went out in the ICU, and as they had to move patients to a different floor, the healthcare workers at that hospital had to manually, by hand, keep their patients who are on ventilators breathing, taking the air in and out of their lungs. The fear is that this could happen on a much larger scale, and they might not have time to transfer those patients elsewhere. So they're really counting on those emergency generators. And then looking forward, you can't forget the fact that this pandemic is still ongoing. The concern is that so many families who are forced from their homes are now going to have no choice but to stay in crowded shelters that could have super spreader potential, not to mention the fact that so many people have fled the area, evacuating elsewhere, and that could further fuel the spread of this virus around the country. Diane?
All right, Trevor Ault, thanks for that. So where is Ida now, and where is the storm headed? WABC meteorologist Brittany Bell is here and tracking it all for us. Brittany, good morning. What's the latest?
And good morning to you, too. So right now, Ida, the center of that circulation that is making its way into southwest Mississippi. Let's pull up the maps. But most of the rainfall that's shifting to the east and the north of the center, we have widespread alerts. So a flash flood watch in effect and flash flood warnings on top of that. In addition, we have tornado watches. So that tornado threat continues for southern Alabama and the Florida Panhandle. Let's time this out. Throughout this afternoon, we'll see the center moving to the north of the Jackson Metro. So the axis of heaviest rain that pushes into North Mississippi. Feeder bands still moving throughout Alabama, and they will have to continue to watch that potential for isolated tornadoes, really slowly moving to the northeast, only making its way into the Tennessee River Valley by Tuesday afternoon, with a lot of rain in Tennessee and in northern Alabama. Speaking of rainfall totals on the lower end could range between 2 to 4 inches. Even that could cause additional issues. And later this week, the impact spread farther to the north into the Appalachians and eventually into the mid-Atlantic. And that's where we could see additional flooding issues with a wide swath of 2 to 4 inches of rain possible. I'll have more details on the timing of that coming up. Diane?
All right, Brittany Bell, thank you. And coming up, rockets target Kabul's airport in Afghanistan, prompting the U.S. military to deploy their anti-missile systems. This as the U.S. races to evacuate remaining Americans and allies before tomorrow's troop withdrawal deadline. We have the latest on the critical situation from Afghanistan when we return. Welcome back. We are tracking Ida throughout the day here, but also following the day's other top stories, including the latest on Afghanistan. Multiple rockets have been fired at the Kabul airport. A U.S. official tells ABC News there are no signs of casualties and that the military's anti-missile system was activated to intercept the incoming rockets. That's a live look at Kabul right now. The attack comes as the U.S. races to evacuate remaining Americans and allies before tomorrow's troop withdrawal deadline. Meanwhile, we're learning more about the 13 service members killed in last week's suicide bombing outside that airport. Senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell has the latest.
Overnight, as many as 5 rockets fired towards U.S. troops at Kabul airport, the U.S. military launching an anti-projectile defense system. But officials saying it's unclear if any of the rockets were intercepted. There are no reports of casualties and the airport remains operational. With America's longest war almost over and all troops set to leave, the final few hours remain the most dangerous. The urgency to evacuate greater than ever. Only 50 American citizens able to get out in a 24-hour period over the weekend. At least 250 who say they want to leave still remain.
This is the most dangerous time in an already extraordinarily dangerous mission these last couple of days. And so we will do everything possible to keep people safe, but the risk is very high.
Despite warnings another terrorist attack could be imminent, hundreds of Afghans still crowding the gates to the airport. Parwana, who worked for the US and has SIV status, was told to go to the airport almost 2 weeks ago, but can't get through. She says she feels as if she's been abandoned and left for dead.
Our life are destroyed. Our future are destroyed. We have no jobs, no future in here.
Earlier Sunday, less than 5 miles from the airport, an unmanned American drone striking a vehicle, eliminating an imminent ISIS-K threat. The vehicle believed to be carrying a substantial amount of explosive material that caused powerful subsequent explosions. An Afghan official telling ABC News 6 civilians were killed, 4 of them children, in that US strike. This came just a day after another US drone strike in Nangarhar province reportedly took out 2 high-level ISIS-K members. US officials characterizing it as counter-terrorism and retaliation for the Kabul airport bombing that killed 13 US service members. On Sunday, the President and First Lady watching the flag-draped coffins of the fallen returning home to US soil.
Diane, ABC News still hearing from Americans who are stuck outside the base saying they are unable to get through. Now, the US ambassador to Kabul has tweeted that it's not true that Americans can't get through, that the US troops or diplomatic officials are stopping them. But of course, we know that the main sticking point has been the Taliban all along, the difficulty of people getting through those checkpoints. And we've had some heartbreaking messages from Afghans, SIV applicants who said, we believed you, we trusted you, we thought you were a family, and now they're feeling abandoned and afraid. Diane?
All right, senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell in Qatar. Ian, thank you. And we're learning more about the 13 young Americans who gave their lives to protect others in Afghanistan. Their remains are now back on U.S. soil. Chief Global Affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz has their story.
A solemn, heartbreaking day at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware. Sunday, President Biden attending the dignified transfer of the flag-draped remains of 13 U.S. service members killed in the suicide attack at Kabul airport while helping evacuate more than 100,000 Afghan allies and American citizens. The fallen include 11 Marines, a Navy hospital corpsman, and an Army soldier. All of them so young, the country pausing to mourn to honor their sacrifice. Marine Lance Corporal David Espinoza, just 20 years old. Marine Sergeant Nicole G., 23 years old. Days before her death, she was featured in this photo, cradling an Afghan baby at the Kabul airport, writing on Instagram, "I love my job." Marine Staff Sergeant Darren Taylor Hoover from Salt Lake City, at 31, the oldest, his father calling him one heck of a leader. Army Staff Sergeant Ryan Noss, 23, Marine Corporal Hunter Lopez, 22. Marine Lance Corporal Riley McCollum, 20, of Jackson, Wyoming, was just weeks away from becoming a father. Marine Lance Corporal Dylan Marola, 20. Marine Lance Corporal Kareem Nikowe, 20, from Norco, California, his father saying he did not hesitate to be called to duty. Marine Corporal Dagan William Tyler Page, 23, Marine Sergeant Johanny Rosario Picardo, 25, Marine Corporal Umberto Sanchez, 22, Marine Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz, 20. Navy Corpsman Maxton Soviak, 22. His father told a reporter that in the last FaceTime with their son, his mother told him to be safe. He said, "Don't worry, Mom. My guys got me. They won't let anything happen to me." She now realizes that they all just went together. All together, all doing heroic work, trying to save the lives of others. Diane?
All right, Martha Raddatz, thanks for that. And ABC News senior Pentagon reporter Louis Martinez joins me live now for more on all this. Louis, what can you tell us about this rocket attack to start? Do we know who was behind it?
Diane, it's a full expectation that this is ISIS. The United States has been warning that they were prepared for a car bomb attack from ISIS, possibly suicide vests like we saw last week, and even rocket attacks. So the belief is that this was another ISIS attack as U.S. troops continue to withdraw before this deadline of midnight tomorrow night at August 31st. Of course, anything can happen between now and then, and so that's why U.S. forces are completely on edge, trying to ensure that there are no further attacks. But what we are seeing is that there is a total dwindling in the number of evacuees aboard flights leaving Kabul's airport. Over the last 24 hours, just 1,200 people leaving. Before that previous period, another 3,000. So the numbers are totally dwindling as the deadline approaches for full withdrawal tomorrow night.
And Louis, we keep hearing the closer we get to that deadline, the more dangerous things become. So are officials expecting more attacks, and how concerned are they about planes being targeted?
They are very concerned about any aspect of force security, including whether planes might be attacked. That's something that we heard General McKenzie from CENTCOM talk about specifically last week. He talked about how they have drones ensuring security around the perimeter of the airport, looking for anything suspicious. He talked about how they would be willing to use their weaponry in any situation, and we saw that yesterday, because what happened yesterday was that a drone struck a vehicle that was being loaded with weapons, presumably explosives that were either going to be used in a car bomb or for suicide vests, and that's why the U.S. military conducted a preemptive drone strike, probably saving a lot of lives. But at the same time, unfortunately, there was a secondary explosion that resulted from the explosion of those bombs, and that led to the deaths of several civilians. Very unfortunate situation.
And Louis, the deadline to pull all U.S. troops out is tomorrow. So how is this expected to play out?
Well, the deadline is tomorrow, midnight local time in Kabul. There's a strange clock going on because they are 8.5 hours ahead. So presumably by sometime tomorrow afternoon East Coast time, that is when the last of all the U.S. troops will have left Afghanistan. But that's the public schedule. Who knows if the military is planning an even faster withdrawal schedule that we are not aware of. But that is what they're trying to stick to. And then what happens next remains unclear, because the Taliban will be taking over the airport. They are seeking assistance and try to maintain that airport. So, and they've reached out to the Turks. It's unclear if that will actually happen so that they can maintain the airport up and running. The U.S. has secured commitments from the Taliban, but it's hard to hold them at their word that they say that after U.S. troops leave, that Americans who have been unable to leave as part of this massive air evacuation will be able to leave Afghanistan through that airport or by other means.
All right, Louis Martinez from the Pentagon. Louis, thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
And coming up, we have the latest forecast for Ida as search and rescue efforts continue amid the damage caused by the storm. We've got everything you need to know coming right up. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are celebrating a Hollywood legend this morning. Ed Asner passed away at age 91 on Sunday. The 7-time Emmy winner rose to fame as cranky newsman Lou Grant on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. But he went on to star in a diverse array of projects, From Roots to Pixar's Up. Chris Connolly has more.
Before, his 7 Emmys made him the most honored male TV actor ever, and before new generations would delight in his big screen work.
Well, perhaps the law doesn't quite see it my way.
Ed Asner was 40 years old when, on the debut episode of The Mary Tyler Moore Show in 1970, he spoke the line that would transform his career.
You know what? You got spunk.
Well,
I hate spunk.
As Lou Grant, the irascible, beloved boss of Mary Richards, running the newsroom at a Minneapolis TV station, Ed Asner made millions laugh. Whether jousting with narcissistic anchorman Ted Baxter.
I got to talk to you. I'm busy, Ted. What if I told you it was a matter of life or death? Mine or yours? Mine. I'm busy.
Squirming under the affections of Betty White, Sue Ann Nivens.
What's that expression? A great meal is the prelude to the symphony of love.
Who said that?
I did.
Or just in his dream team comedic partnership with the late Mary Tyler Moore.
What happened here?
Set at a big city newspaper, the spin-off drama Lou Grant saw Asner showcasing the integrity of his signature character.
Is that the question? Or is that the problem? Either way, it's a hell of a story.
He'd also be honored for his performance in Roots. More success would come in 2003 as he'd play Santa Claus, prepping Will Ferrell for his trip to New York City in the holiday classic Elf.
You see gum on the street, leave it there. It's not free candy.
6 years later, in Pixar's Up, Asner would provide the voice. And what a voice.
Take a bath, hippie.
For Carl Fredrickson, the grumpy, grieving senior who forms an unlikely connection with a young wilderness explorer.
Kid.
Are you in need of
Thank you, but I don't need any help.
A longtime activist, former president of the Screen Actors Guild. On social media, he was a compassionate chronicler, marking the passings of his Mary Tyler Moore Show cohorts. After Gavin MacLeod's death in May of this year, Asner wrote, "I will see you in a bit, Gavin." Ed Asner died Sunday at the age of 91, leaving behind 4 children and 10 grandchildren. On and off screen, remembered by colleagues and fans alike as one of Hollywood's most respected individuals. Just an amazing career. And among those offering tributes on social media, Mark Hamill, who first met him back in the mid-1970s, well before Hamill's Luke Skywalker days. A great man, a great actor, a great life. Thank you, Mr. Asner. Diane?
All right, Chris Connolly, thanks for that. And for more on where Ida is headed, let's go back to WABC meteorologist Brittany Bell for the latest forecast. Brittany, you say this storm is weakening but still dangerous.
That's correct. So we really can't get too hung up on the status, whether it's a tropical storm or a tropical depression, because we will see that potential for flash flooding stretching from Mississippi all the way to New Jersey and isolated spin-up tornadoes. So we can't let our guard down. Here's a look at the latest. That center of circulation just southwest of Jackson, Mississippi, the heaviest rain to the north and east of the storm. On top of flash flood warnings, we also have a tornado watch that extends into southern Alabama and the Florida Panhandle, still looking at a tornado warning just to the north of Pensacola. Timing things out, this is going to be a slow mover. Most of the heavier rainfall pushes into northern Mississippi this afternoon and bands moving into central Alabama. Alabama will still get the brunt of heavy rainfall later Tuesday afternoon and evening. And then heading into Tuesday, the rest of Tuesday, we'll see the center of circulation getting closer to Nashville. Later in the week, Wednesday into Thursday, flash flood watches already out for Pennsylvania and New Jersey. We could see between 4 to 6 inches of rainfall. Diane?
All right, Brittany, thank you so much. And that does it for this newscast. I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for joining us. And remember, ABC News Live is here for you all day with the latest news, context, and analysis. We will see you right back here at the top of the hour. But first, Start Here begins right now.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.